This is Mullinahone Co-op, one of the oldest farm cooperatives in the country. And at a time when dairy processors are only getting bigger and bigger, this is a co-op that's bucked the trend by keeping it local. Like all milk processors, large and small, Mullinahone Co-op in County Tipperary is totally reliant on its suppliers. Derek Ryan is one of just 23 farmers who send their milk there. He milks his 280 cows with the co-op very much in mind. Your system is set up to have milk year-round. Why is that?
My father would have made that decision back in the early 90s that he just wanted more milk.
The co-op that you're supplying also has a requirement for milk year-round. How big an influence did that have on the system that you have here?
It definitely had an influence. Like, milk is needed all year round for the cheese production, so it was a kind of a fit.
All of the Ryan family income derives from the milk that they sell. So having a strong performing co-op is of no small importance. You've kind of grown up, I'm guessing, with the farm supplying Mullinahone.
It was always part of the farm here. Back to my grandfather's time, back then there was committee meetings, trips to the RDS with all the other suppliers. Yeah, it was Mullinahone Co-op.
How big a role does it play in the community around here?
I suppose the main reason was to add value to the milk that was going in, but it also created employment for the area. The fact is, it's so local here, and like everybody knows, we're probably the furthest farm from the co-op, and it's a little over 3 miles.
Like, you'd know every other farmer supplier by their first name.
We would, yeah, definitely. Look, we know we're small, but hopefully we'll hold on to what we have.
Derek's milk is collected every day and taken the short distance to the co-op. 40 years ago, at a time when other small co-ops were shutting down their creameries as large-scale processing plants emerged, Mullinahone went its own way. It spent over £1 million then establishing Compsey Creamery. Today, Anne Langley is the technical manager.
So it's pretty noisy in here.
It is.
Yeah, but this is the first stop for the milk.
It is. The first stop for the milk is with our pasteurizer over there.
Over here.
Yes.
And where does it go from that?
It goes on to the separator and it's separated into skim and cream.
The cheeses, yoghurts and creams produced here are sold into the food service sector and to food manufacturers. As well as being sold here in Ireland, the company exports to the UK, France and Spain. Martin Ryan is the CEO. He's been with the company for just over 2 years, but is fully aware of the co-op's importance within the local community.
Mullinahone is probably the oldest co-op in Ireland. It's actually here since 1893. That's 132 years. It's kind of almost miraculous. It's been through world wars, recessions, pandemics, epidemics. We have 84 employees today, and you could say 60 at least of those are from within probably a 7-8 kilometre radius of Mullinahone. So it's very much a community-based business.
16 million litres of milk are processed here every year. The vast bulk of that goes into making different varieties of soft and cream cheeses.
What are we looking at here, Anne?
What we're looking at here is the curd mixed with the fermented dressing.
So when you mix the fresh curd with the fermented cream,
Yes.
that's basically cottage cheese.
That's cottage cheese.
And this is a product that you've been making here for years.
Yes, cottage cheese would have been our first product back in 1984.
But if you thought 16 million litres of milk is a lot, it's actually only a drop in the ocean compared to what the biggest companies here, such as Tirlawn, Dairygold or Lakeland Dairies, get through.
Mullinahone in a year would do about the same amount of milk processing as Tirlawn would do in maybe a day and a half. So it is microscopic compared to a lot of the bigger companies we see in the country.
The vast majority of Irish co-ops haven't survived, the small ones in particular. So what's different about Mullinahone?
Well, I suppose I'll push back as well if you're saying they haven't survived. They have survived, but they're now parts of larger entities. In 1910, there was over 400 dairy co-ops in the country. Now there's maybe 10 that we could name off the top of our heads. If you look back to the history of co-ops, the idea was farmers would gather together and process the milk together to get economies of scale. And for small co-ops, those economies of scale also work. So if you have 3 or 4 neighbouring co-ops, they may as well join together and build a new processing plant between them. And that's how it's kind of organically happened over the years.
What's helped Mullinahone to stay afloat and indeed prosper
is the diversification it's undertaken over the years. It supplies a huge number of the livestock ID tags sold in this country. It also has a large agribusiness outlet, and in recent years even started selling pet grooming supplies. Altogether, the co-op has a turnover of close to €40 million. Compsey Creamery accounts for 1/3 of that, and is an area of the business that Martin sees future growth in.
We've, I suppose, started to expand very much on the export front with our cheese business. And across Europe, that supply base is shrinking a little bit in many areas, and it's creating opportunities in itself. Milk production in France and Spain seems to be falling somewhat. Demand keeps growing. And I noticed in the last year, there's a big ask from those markets in particular for cream-based products and butterfat-based products in particular, whether it is Irish butter or whether it is Irish cream products or whatever. So I do see opportunity there.
20 years from now, or even 10 years from now, will there still be room for a Mullinahone?
I think there's always room for small players. In any business, there's always niches for players. Like maybe some of the businesses that Mullinahone supply are not huge buyers. They're big enough for Mullinahone, but they wouldn't be big enough for the likes of Tipperary or Dairygold to change a production line over. So for a company that's small, they can also be, I suppose, much more agile.
Over the last decade or so, the market in all things dairy has expanded hugely. These days, our shop shelves are packed with protein-added drinks and powders, gut-healthy products, and fermented milks such as kefir. To date, Mullinahone Co-op has not gone down this road, but that looks like it might be about to change.
For the general Irish public, outside of Mullinahone, nobody knows about your creamery because you don't have a consumer-facing brand. Is that something you'd like to try and explore in the future?
First of all, yeah, you're very correct in that. We're very much a quiet business in that regard because we're business to business. But on the other hand, I would think that when we look at some of the value-added products, particularly if we look at the whey side of the house or whatever going forward, the plan would be to maybe create products that are more consumer-facing.